Hello, Leo. Welcome to your reading with me, Cindy. You can see I got out of bed, Leo. I'm out of the spare room. It's quiet here today. There's no construction. I'm filming this on a Sunday, so, bylaws and such. Nice and quiet. Actually, it feels better. Like, it looks really comfy in the bed, like to sit here and fling out some tarot cards. But getting into the bed without knocking everything down, like all my decks of cards and everything, is really hard. So I'm like crawling across the bed and getting into position, and then the pillows, and then Lily, I'll get comfortable and Lily will decide she needs to sleep to move over, and then I knock the cards over. And I find like too, you have a tendency to sit kind of like scrunchy in a bed like that. And I feel like it affects like the energetic flow running through me even. So I feel a little bit like better. I got dressed up. I wore my fancy shirt. I did my hair. I'm out of bed. And I have real pants. I have like real pants. I'm not like pajama bottoms. So Leo, I'm going to do a reading. We're going to look at your current and future energies. I'm going to do that with a number of different decks. I'm going to start with the archetype deck. So, and it's not a wild unknown. It's just like old-fashioned kind of. I don't even know what this. I think it's just called an archetype. So we're going to start with that, Leo. Current and future energy. Current and future archetype energy for Leo. Your cards are jumpy. Jumpy. Pussycat energy. Wow. Jumping around. Your current energy is mystic, revels in an intimate union with the divine. Now that's the light. If you're shadowy, we're going to look. Delusional rapport with the divine. Okay, that's interesting. So I feel like you're going to know. Well, maybe you won't, because if you're delusional, no one can tell you otherwise, really. So if you're light, you will like revels in intimate union with the divine. So even it could be something as simple as taking time out for yourself, quiet, meditative space for you. I want to also say too, like, if I look at it as being the opposite of the shadow, a delusional rapport with the divine, that right there tells me like you're kind of telling the divine what you should be doing and what should be going on. Like it's almost like a reversed energy. So to transform that into light, that does feel more like, the divine might be telling you some things that you don't necessarily want to hear right now, but you're kind of accepting them. And then that is kind of creating an intimate union. Revels in intimate union with the divine. Just saying that too, intimate union. That kind of has a feeling too, like receiving information or feeling something in a space that others don't feel. I get with the shadow too, delusional rapport with the divine. Like thinking, it's okay. The best way to describe it, it's always hard to find words for this. They often come up as like storylines in my head or metaphors. It's almost as if the shadow part here is, it's reminding me of let's say, here's the scenario that's playing out in my head. It's like you're going to a little coffee shop or something somewhere. Actually, no, here's a better one. Because this is something that actually happened to me. Well, not this story, but the way it happened. It's almost like, okay, let's say you're going. I went to, years and years ago, the Louvre. Did I say that right? Louvre? The beautiful museum in France. And there was downstairs in the basement, and there was, like, I believe, at the time anyways, it was old Egyptian artifacts and tombs and coffins and sarcophaguses and things like that. And all of a sudden, like, these guys with these black suits and stuff came in, and they asked, I was with my mom, they asked us all to go, kind of just politely, very French, politely, please go to the side. So we stood off to the side, and the Prime Minister of France came in, and he was, I guess, doing a tour. I don't know what, but So I want to say it's almost like that, like, right, it's someone that, because the divine, depending on how you work with this energy, like a delusional rapport. I don't know why I'm sitting on this, so I don't know if there's something here where you feel like you met someone. So it's almost like, let's say the prime minister, this is the part that didn't happen, came up and started talking to me and my mom. And I was like, wow, yeah. You know, you have like a friendly conversation in an environment and a circumstance and an situation that really doesn't play outside of being in the basement of the museum. And this happened, right? Like, beyond that, you have no connection with the Prime Minister of France. So we didn't have the conversation. He just saw it. I think he smiled. He walked out, and we were all allowed to keep doing what we were doing. But then it's almost like, so let's say that happened. You had a conversation with this divine, this someone who's even in a position, a socio-economic position that's quite above yours. And so then you say, I'm going to go to his office. I'm going to throw some ideas past him. Yeah, we had great conversation in the basement there. So, you know, it's almost like, I don't know, but I'm seeing this with the divine. Like, this is playing out in my head, my mind space with this shadow. And I don't know why I'm focusing on that. So I feel like, okay, so here's why. I feel like maybe divine, the universe, has used you in some capacity in your life. And it's almost like you see that and you assume that it gives you free reign to do something else. Right? Like, oh, the divine supported me here. The divine will support me over here. It's like, no, it's not the basement of the museum with bodyguards around. I really have no idea who you are. So it's just really weird how that's coming through. I don't know why that's coming through. I've only got one card out already in your whole reading. And that's so delusional rapport with the divine. And this could even be like, the divine wants me to spend some time meditating. You could be going from the light to the shadow for some reason. The divine wants me to spend some time meditating, really creating this intimate union, like almost an intimate conversation in a confined space in a basement with like the Prime Minister of France, but we didn't have the conversation part. But then like taking that beyond or not taking it beyond. There's something here. I don't know. I feel like the universe is trying to talk to you, but you're still in the same conversation. That's what it feels like. It's like you were having a conversation with the universe, with God, with spirit, with source. And you guys, this was a very intimate connection in what this conversation was, or what this goal, state of being was. But it's like the conversation has changed, or it's changing, but you're still thinking, oh, it's just like this, but it's not. Yeah, I know what I'm saying. So what are you in the future? Wow, hero, heroine. Passion for a journey of personal empowerment. Ah. Okay, well, shadow is escapism and false sense of heroism. That could also fall into the delusional part. I'm not trying to get your goat today, Leo. I don't think y'all are delusional. There's the odd one, I think, who watches me, and any sign is delusional, but you know, that's good too, because it's just a different way of getting us to see things. So, okay, so now I'm going to say, I think you are reveling in an intimate union with the divine in some way with your life, in your life. And you're bang on with that. Like, you're in sync, you're communicating, you're in alignment. Now, however, if you keep, it's almost as if maybe the divine has even protected you up to a point, or has guided you up to a point, but you're getting delusional here if you think that's going to continue, because it's almost like you're shifting into a point here where you need to climb the mountain. You need to climb the mountain. You need to find up and stir up your own passion for a journey and personal empowerment, right? It's almost like this quick little conversation that you had with Prime Minister of France, which never really happened. Well, I did see him, but didn't have the conversation. Like, oh, I'm going to go to his office and talk to him about all these ideas that I have. No, you know what? You need to create your own office and start building, like, that's to inspire you. Look at him and say, oh, well, yeah, he has a lot of power and we got kind of pushed off to the side. What would I do with that kind of power? How would I change things? Because it's very oh, I got to find out who they get to clean their house over there. They have these cleaners come. Yeah, anyways. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? That's even funny that I said that. Maybe there's something that, like, you need, maybe you need to clean house. Maybe you need to clean your house. I want to clean my house. To clean your house. It's time to, it's almost like time to step out of the cave of enlightenment and climb the mountain. Spirit's not going to help you climb the mountain. Well, you know, to some extent here. This has to come from you. Oh, Jesus, destroyer, servant, releasing what is potentially destructive, preparing for new life. Wow. Gosh, this is something really interesting because you have these two climbing a mountain and then it looks like it explodes. It's almost as if you see things that you were climbing towards in the past. Whoop, and you have to continue to climb somehow. But this is destroyed. It's like to create new life. Okay. That's almost like a tower moment, isn't it? Releasing what is potentially destructive. The servant, delight in serving others with a free and loving heart. You can see how that's connected with the story of, you know, you bump into this prime minister, or president, or whatever, wherever you are. And then, like, taking that forward. No, there's something more here. Like, look to see how you would do things in your life. The divine is talking to you. But the conversation is changing. That's, I think, the best way I would describe what I'm picking up. The divine is talking to you, but the conversation is changing. So I want to see now, so what I'm going to do with the Wild Unknown Oracle is I'm going to see what is influencing these energies. What is influencing you? The mystic currently, the future, the hero, the heroine, being your own hero and heroine too. Also, I mean, there's action that's required in that. You can't just sit back and hope for good things all the time. Sometimes you need to do things. So let's see. Oh, the fire ant. This is what is influencing this. Revels in intimate union with the divine. So there could be like a lot of, this is like, there could be a lot of stress. There could be a lot of anxiety. There could be a lot of conflict going on around you. And it's almost like trying to either cleanse yourself of this or get answers, where it's very difficult to really get answers in the first place from anything that could be even producing this energy or circumstances. It's like a difficult point causes you to reach in an area or utilize something in you that's never been utilized before. You never have to. It kind of reminds me this too of often like you know, the idea of someone who never got down on their knees and asked the universe, God, spirit, source, however you want to clarify it, something bigger than yourself. Help me, help me, help me. You know, like that. Like if things have always been really easy, really understandable, there's never a need. It's like someone, and it's often like that depiction in cartoons where, you know, God often says, nobody ever talks to me unless they have a problem. because, well, everything's good now. I don't need you, right? Like it feels a little bit like that, but the conversation is changing. So if the conversation is changing, maybe you've been dealing with conflict, negativity, stress, anxiety, and you've been communicating with the universe because of that. But now, how does this conversation change in the future? What's influencing it? Oh, the fish. Take everything that you've learned and everything that you've received in the current energy. You're going to be able to use it to apply whatever this passion for a journey or personal empowerment is. Stepping up and being the hero or the heroine. The heroine. The hero. What does that sound like? A drug. And recognizing when it's time to make this leap, when it's time to do something. Fire and water. See how that conversation is changing? It's like all of the knowledge that you've gained up to this point that is connected to some, I'm hearing either activity, just a cycle that could have been stressful, competitive. Take what you've learned in that because it's truth. If it was an intimate union with the divine, it's truth. But over here, the conversation changes. And a fish, why is there something coming up about it? Why do I feel like there's something, a fish, to do with religion that's coming in? I don't know what that is. I'm just channeling it, really. It's something to do with a fish. Oh, okay. That's an interesting message. So, okay, intimate union. That in itself, like when you just say those two words together, an intimate union, that in itself feels like, you know, sex or making love or just like, do you know what I'm saying? It's just like two beings that come together. And then when that happens though, I know it's going to get a little graphic, but that is like sharing of bodily fluids. It's, so what I'm going at here is that there's something that you've gained in some sort of connection with the universe. And it's like the seed that stays with you. And then you become this. So it's almost like maybe you feel like in the future you don't hear the conversation as well with the universe, maybe even at a point where you feel like you could need it the most. But no, you are this. The seed has been planted within you. And this will drive you forward. You become the symbol of what it is that you were communing with in the first place. And the symbol, the seed drives you forward. There is a caution here about the shadow that's come through since the beginning of this reading. And the shadow here is escapism and false sense of heroism. Now, escapism, even like I get Pisces energy from this as well. So it is very, very spiritual, but it's also the 12th house, which, you know, there's a lot of mystery and illusion, and we can get caught up in that too. So don't just paint a picture in your mind of either how you would be a hero, how you would be self-empowered. Like, actually do this. You have to actually do this. These shadows are interesting. The destroyer, intoxication with destructive power, destroying others' dreams or potential, and the shadow of the servant, using the lack of money as an excuse not to move forward with life. Oh, now I see how that plays in. It's just such a weird, like, analogy that came forward. I can't even think of the last time I thought it. Like, that must be over 20 years ago that I had that experience in the museum in France. And, okay, because using the lack of money as an excuse not to move forward in life, right? Like, who had the money and the power in that scenario? There's the prime minister, obviously, right? So thinking, oh, I got a little snippet of that. I'm going to use that and see if I can get, I'm not going to see, I'm going to get into his office and I'm going to talk to him. Intoxication with destructive power. See, that can be, that's really an interesting reading. And I don't know why politics is coming in like that, but it's something. I'm just going to keep going. You got the rabbit at the bottom. Cautiously optimistic, keeping your eye out cautiously. Don't let fear. There's something here about not letting fear take over, or not letting fear be an excuse. Be the excuse that you use to do something or not do so. I think it's more not do something that has to do with personal empowerment. Oh, we weren't allowed to take any pictures of them either. Well, we didn't have phones. We didn't have cell phones back then. But we had our cameras and we couldn't take any pictures. We had to put them away. Food there is good though. I don't know if I have any people from France watching me. I like Paris, but you know what I liked even more? I liked Bayeux. I hope I said that right. Bayeux? Oh God, that was beautiful. Yeah. I love that. You guys know how to do a farmer's market. The farmer's market was like everything that we see here in North America, but there was goats and chickens and all sorts of stuff too. It was awesome. All right, current energy. We're going to, with the tarot, because I'm going to keep digging into this. What have you been working on? What have you been healing? And what is starting to blossom? And then we're going to see, I'll tell you as we pull it out. Okay, what have you been working on? The Four of Swords, healing. Gosh, okay, that's so interesting, right? Because I kind of get that, like reveling in intimate union with the divine. It is a very secluded energy. It's a very exclusive energy too. It's just you and the universe in this, but using that to heal. And healing possibly from conflict, competition, anger, fear. I'm getting like a lot of the heavier energies with this Fire Ant card. Which is funny. What have you been healing? So let's see. That's what you've been working on. The Five of Swords. Wow. Either the things that you've cut out of your life or the things that have been cut out of your life. This is a really interesting piece of artwork though. There's like a little butterfly or like a pixie. God, there's something really toxic going on here. In the jar, right? So it's like you've caught like magic. You've either caught magic or you're magic and you've been caught. I don't know where that sits, but there's something not right here. And I'm looking at this jar and I'm thinking, why does he's got one of these little swords through his own hand. And all these little swords sitting in a pincushion. It's almost as if paralyzing oneself to release magic. Inflicting pain upon oneself instead of releasing the magic, because I don't think that's right. I mean, that's, you know, as an adult, you get a little bit better with your your conscience about catching little things like that. You know, it reminds me of catching fireflies as a kid and putting them in the jar, and how fascinating, but they don't last long in the jar. And should these not be used to at least put some holes in the lid so that it can breathe? Like there's something quite toxic here. So I think what you've been healing is possibly quite a toxic relationship or circumstance that you've had to endure. And there's either the sense of you feeling like your own magic is trapped here and contained. What contains or traps that? I don't know, but it seems like it's being shown to us as someone that is fascinated by the magic that they see, and they would do anything to keep it. It's really like, because the Five of Swords though is like doing anything to end something. Don't let your hand open up the jar. Don't let your hand let this out. So stab yourself. There could even be something here about inflicting pain upon yourself to continue a healing cycle. And that, of course, is where this rapport with the divine would become delusional, because the divine doesn't want you to do that. It's like, come to me when there is something that truly needs to be healed, but don't continue to inflict pain upon yourself to keep having this union with me. It's like tough love, but it's true, right? And now over here in the future, you've got to climb the mountain. Maybe you've got to figure out how to get out of the jar. No. We've got to release the jar. Gosh, darn it. Now this almost looks like divine to me is in the jar. This is the intimate union. Like divine agreed. Okay, you can catch me in the jar. And then you find this space with divine. But not letting it out. And when I say not letting it out, it's because it's continuing to find inflicting pain upon yourself is like, no, I'm still in pain. I still need you. It's kind of like too, like an ogre or something finding, it's just like a creature, and I say ogre because it's a creature that's probably being, you know, like rocks thrown at them. The townspeople don't want them coming near, and so the ogre ends up living, you know, in the cave by themselves, and they happen to come across a little tiny pixie that's never seen really anything human-like, so it doesn't know that the ogre could be seen as scary or unusual or different. It's just the ogre. So it's like it communes with the ogre, and then the ogre is like, no, I've never had anyone like treat me normally. You need to stay in the jar and stay with me. But the thing is, then the pixie, the fairy, starts to develop a different relationship with the ogre, because now the pixie, the fairy, doesn't feel A, safe probably with the ogre, and B, that it has any sense of freedom. So now it starts to see the ogre in the same way that so do you know, there's almost like a sense of projection here. This reading is really getting kind of deep. So there's almost like, okay, the wounds that were inflicted on the ogre become the wounds that the ogre ends up inflicting through indirect relationships with those that don't even know the ogre. But it's starting to blossom. The Page of Wands. Your ability to communicate. Your ability to communicate is starting to blossom. But yet there's so much more in these. Okay, so the fire has gone out here, and she's holding these sticks, and it's like dark. So how do I make a fire? Oh, feed a man a fish, or teach him how to fish, right? And allow him to feed himself forever, or the rest of his life. That's just it. The fairy imparted, I don't want to call you guys ogres, but it's just how it's happening. Is, you know what I'm saying? It's just like something here about now needing, okay. So, but you've been healing this with the Five of Swords. You have been healing this. But it's almost like now you've let the fairy out. And then there's this sense of feeling all alone and lost in the darkness. Because they are. There's no one there to light it up. So what's starting to blossom though is I figure like it's like learning how to create the flames. Learning how to create the light, that you were fascinated in something around you that made you feel good. But I feel like it's something about divine. Something that took place in a very spiritual way for you. The fairy was meant to meet the ogre because the fairy allowed the ogre to feel loved, to feel accepted, to feel that they were okay. But when it got to the point that the ogre became like clingy on the fairy, you can't go, it almost was like the ogre became everything that he or she didn't want the fairy to see. That almost like believed because the townspeople had told that to the ogre. So you're starting to learn how to pick up the pieces here and create the fire, create the light. I want to say also that when you do this, it's almost like drawing nice things into you. Gosh, doesn't this also look like the town and the ogre's in the middle and they're throwing rocks at the ogre? What? So we keep going. In the future, what will you finish working on? Oh, the Four of Wands. Oh, I love that. So what have you been working on is a 4. So there's different ways to utilize this energy again. Isn't that interesting? Like 2 4s. So this is a point where you need to put down, like finding yourself in a point here. I need to put down my swords. I need to kind of just rest. I need to recuperate. I need to find the strength within myself. I need to heal. I need to meditate. I need to calm. Coming out of battle. And you'll finish working on, well, what you'll finish working on is celebration. Now, interesting story here, because Leo, so far everyone's on their own in these images. And the 5 of Swords, the only other thing that's in this image is like this little butterfly or fairy or pixie. And then over here, though, there's a celebration. The 4 of Wands is usually a couple of people coming together and celebrating. And in the background, there's a tent and people going into the tent. This person is all on their own, celebrating. I love it because it's like you made enough fire here. You can light up your cake with candles and you can feel really good in who you are. All the stories about the ogre were never true. Realizing that there's more to this. I feel like there's more to this scenario with the fairy and the ogre that I'm not getting. Oh, this is one of those readings for people that go to like tarot readings that haven't been here before. And they're used to like how your person feels. Well, they think you're an asshole and they think you cheated on them. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. This is so much. This is just so, I feel like it's just at such a deep level here for you, Leo. It's almost as if you've been persecuted in some way, whether that was just or unjust. And moving away from the persecution, and then almost like moving even to another town, and nobody knows your backstory. And the first person you find that thinks, hey, Leo's pretty cool, is there's a sense of codependency in it because you never felt it before, right? And it's not that it's wrong. And honestly, it's not, because the ogre to me is such a wounded energy. And you have the 4 of Swords of what you've been working on. The ogre is such a wounded soul that was misjudged from the beginning, maybe big and clumsy. So, right, like accidentally knocked over the someone's display at the farmer's market. Oh, how could you do that? And then, oh, I'm sorry. And then stepped on some little kid's foot. Oh, he's trying to kill the kids. You know, like it's just this, just walked in. It just has that feeling. And then the ogre finds something. And immediately, no, God, it's almost like Quasimodo. Shit. Oh, we're going back to France. What in God's name am I pulling in with your reading, Leo? It totally is the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I did get to see before it burned, and I'm so glad I did. Because I don't know, I haven't been there to see it rebuilt, but I'm telling you right now, it took like 200 years and generations of people to make one carving. You can't recreate that. But it is, it's Quasimodo. It's like the energy, it's the archetype of Quasimodo, which isn't in this deck. But you're moving beyond the story because that ended sadly. Quasimodo, that ended sadly. But yours doesn't look like it. You've been working on finding celebration within yourself, which is really hard with the energy like Ogre and Quasimodo. Those are really hard. They just feel like energies that have never really been loved. What will be healed? Fuck me, the Three of Swords. Your story. There's two Three of Swords in this deck, and this one is the more kind of elevated element of it. So you can see like the healing is being elevated here, and it is releasing the concept of who you are and who you've been shown to be and who others have believed you to be. And the story, like all the pain that comes in the story, holy shit, Leo. That will be healed. How you understood your story. Moving beyond your entire story. I was almost the kind of reading I feel like I need to sit back and even look at it historically. Like, how did we start in France with your story in the Louvre, in the basement, looking at Egyptian artifacts and being pushed to the side so that the Prime Minister of France could come in and look at the same artifacts. And then we end up with Quasimodo and Notre Dame and in France. It's weird. There might even be some ancestral stuff going on here. What will be ready to harvest? My goodness, I'm curious. The Fool. Oh, see, this is almost like that sense of the seed of divine planted within you. You may, like, you're moving away from this intimate union with the divine, but just to remember that the seed has been planted within you. So on some level, maybe there will be more practical things coming into your life where you do not have such an exclusive, quiet connection with the divine. And then what's ready to harvest is your new beginning. And it's free of things from the past, which I think is showing up so ideal in the future, because this Three of Swords, like releasing all the falsities about who you were. God, there's such a, I just really picturing that poor ogre in the town square or wandering into the village and accidentally knocking things over. And yeah, wow, what a reading. I didn't expect this. The Wise One is at the, oh my God, look at, he's made of fire. See, that's the thing here. It's like there's a sense of needing to hang on to what doesn't recognize you as the ogre. But then you become the ogre. You become the one thing you knew you never were in that experience. And then I do feel like you release the magic, you release the fairy. And then that is kind of in a way like a dark period. But it's the period where you learn to pick up the sticks and you learn to light the fire. And one of the things that I feel like is that when you light the fire yourself, beautiful things come towards you. And then what is it like here, sitting much wiser and knowing and having lit the fire, and those come in to commune with you. Because you have so much to share. And look at this person, looks kind of sad and downtrodden. And this person, they look, so it's also like other ogres. Really, I know. I don't think you guys are ogres. It's just, but like, it's just the archetype of that experience. And they come in and look at this fire. Come and sit with me, come and commune. I have the seed of divine, but not like that. No, you can't say it like that, because then that is very egotistical. You utilize the seed of the divine within you. And it's almost like allowing the little ogres, the inexperienced ogres, just to feel present and seen around the fire. Let's look at each one of these. Mystic, revels in intimate union with the divine. Oh, where did that fall out? I don't know. I guess it's important. The 2 of Pentacles, the 5 of Pentacles. See, it is. It's like excluded, but there's the ogre. The only time the ogre wanders through town is at night when everybody's asleep. Jesus, Murphy, look at all these pentacles. The 2 of Pentacles, the 5 of Pentacles, the 6 of Pentacles, and the 9 of Cups. I kind of feel like, you know, being in some sort of a state here where you're juggling things, you're juggling responsibilities, or you're juggling options. None of them are good. So you end up in the 5 of Pentacles. So it is excluding yourself and maybe like what other people expect of you or want of you. And then the 6 of Pentacles, finding enough to give, finding the right places to receive. And the 9 of Cups. I mean, that is your own sovereign happiness. And that these clarifiers for the mystic almost feels like a recap of everything in the current, the way that unfolded. Now let's look at the fire ant. This is what influences it. The Knight of Pentacles and the Strength card. You know, now I'm getting the image of the ogre walking through town, but very slowly and very carefully with a lot of self-control. To be seen differently, because you know you're different than how you've been perceived to be. As opposed to wanting to run through the town with this jar and this little fairy and say, look, see, I'm different. The fairy likes me. But then everyone looks in the jar. It's like the fairy looks like it's dying in that jar. I tell you, this reading's either going to take off or something like that. But I just have to, what's coming out, it's what's coming out. This is how your reading is coming out today, Leo. It's very unique and unusual. What have you been working on? It's the 4 of Swords. The 3 of Wands and the Hermit. Looking out slowly. It's slowly coming out. What you've been working on is slowly coming out of this period of deep reflection that only is taking place between you and the divine. But the healing part here, it is almost as if there's something that feels like it needs to be let go. And I think it's the divine. The divine to me appears like this little fairy because it's time to do something on your own here. But know that you still have almost like the seed of wisdom, the seed of knowledge that you will take with you. The 5 of Swords is what you've been healing. Look at it. It's trying to get to the Fool card. The Knight of Cups, Justice, and the Fool. Okay, it would be just, and it would be balanced to release the fairy from the jar, right? And this is it. Fairy in the jar could even be something within you that you've never allowed to be seen before, and keeping that hidden, like a magic part of you. If you just shown the townsfolks this, but they wouldn't understand it, you know? It's that feeling. But with the Knight of Cups, like making a choice with your heart here and proceeding forward with your heart in a way that brings justice and just a sense of openness and freedom. But also like taking the chance, because the Fool is a little bit chancy here. You haven't learned anything along the way. So it is going down a path where you just haven't learned any of this along the way necessarily. And I feel like too, like the metaphors and the analogies that come through, it's as if because everybody could find this in a different part of their life. So if I just came through the reading and I was given the information that, okay, so this is what happened between you and your parents, and then this is how you perpetuated that forward. It's more, no, like it's almost like the reading is supposed to be like that, so you can see it in your life. What is starting to blossom is this Page of Wands, right? Like learning to make the fire. Ooh, the Two of Cups. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, okay. Now, to me, as also, the Two of Cups is like, it's divine love. So it is being a seed, a source of divinity, and then exercising that in life as you move forward, allowing divine to kind of work through you, allowing source in the universe to work through you. But then this is also finding others who that experience is happening with, and then exchanging these cups. So exchanging energy in a really mutually balanced, emotionally balanced ways here. This is starting to blossom. In the future, you have hero, heroine. Queen of Wands, the Moon, and the High Priestess. It almost feels like there's a lot of power here. I would say that. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of feminine power here. It feels very heroine, which is the feminine side of like hero. So it does also feel like, well, all the parts of you that you could never share, whether you're masculine or feminine, in the future, there's a real heroic energy of the feminine in here. Climbing the mountain, but doing it in a way that's never been seen before. Conquering. The ogre keeps coming. Ogre keeps being shown to me in different elements of this reading. And now the ogre is almost as if the ogre has found a way more understood. The ogre more understands themselves in the future. And when they understand themselves, they don't try to hide it. They don't try to do anything too cautiously. They are just the ogre. And I feel like it's too, any way that the townsfolk, people from the past, have convinced you, the ogre, that you can't do something or be something. You climb this mountain. And the feminine energy too, a very suppressed energy, like through the cycles of humanity that we were going through, that we were exercising through. Often when feminine energy does find empowerment, it can easily become over-masculated again, like take on masculine attributes and try to use feminine energy in a masculine way. There's a real fine line between... because feminine energy is the energy that we use to nurture, the energy that we use to express ourselves. It's also kind of like the wound that a lot of people hold. So I do almost like your wound becomes your power. But with the divine, because you have the moon and the high priestess, the wound becomes your power. Geez, guys, there's a real spiritual, because then you have, look at, you have the high priestess and the Hierophant here. It's like taking this seed, right? Because this to me is communing with spirit, with the universe. And then this is utilizing it in our world, right? Like the high priestess is always shown on her own, unless there's the odd deck where she's holding a baby. And that is like the seed of knowledge. But then the Hierophant, there's always others gathered around the Hierophant. And the purpose of the Hierophant is to take this and to make it something three-dimensional in the world. But that's also the energy where things get kind of, because it's empowering, it can go the wrong way, but oh, this energy. The fish. Eight of Pentacles, Seven of Wands, and the Three of Pentacles. So jumping out of, oh my goodness. Okay, going from working on your own on something here to working in a group. But it almost feels as though you were guarding from the group. Again, like the ogre feels persecuted by the group, maybe. The town. Because this person is working, like, right, mastering something on their own here. And then, look at this, like defending against the Three of Pentacles. Where you're working with the group. And the fish is jumping from a small pond into a bigger pond. Because you can only grow so much in the small pond. Being a carp, needing to grow beyond that. The Four of Wands. What will you finish working on here is the celebration. Ten of Wands and the Queen of Swords. There's a heavy burden here. And two, being in the Eight, like working on it alone. It's like the only way you can do this is on your own. And it is carrying, though, a lot of heavy burdens. But you're dropping them and like looking forward, like having nothing in your hands except the suit of truth and the hand of clarity. The suit of truth and the hand of clarity. Seeing how you light your own candles. The Three of Swords. But yet there's, right, like how you light your own candles. But there's something here about not just sticking with your own cake. The Three of Swords. What will be healed? Jeez, Ten of Swords, Eight of Swords. Ugh, doesn't that just feel like the poor ogre up in the mountain after the townsfolk have like thrown things at the ogre? The Ace of Pentacles, the Emperor, and the Ten of Pentacles. It's almost like getting the keys to the town. The key to the town. Like, what the heck? There's a real element here of feeling like a lot of things in life, I'm getting that right here, like this wound. There's a lot for this wound to talk about. And it seems an awful lot like there's no way forward, or there's been no way forward for you. And then, but there's a new beginning here, and it's quite strong. It's almost like going from the persecuted and the downtrodden to becoming the emperor in the palace. Like it's a huge shift in the story. a huge shift in this story. It's almost like the ogre has spent enough time up in the mountain, in the cave, that when they come down, the stories of the ogre have been lost. And but you see, the important thing here, though, is that the ogre now looks at him or herself differently when they come out of the mountain. And the town folks have changed. And nobody really remembers the ogre like, you know, maybe the ogre lives for hundreds of years compared to the people in the town. And there's all this opportunity that almost appears around the ogre. But the most significant influence in this is the change that the ogre and how the ogre sees him or herself. Because how the ogre saw him or herself here, through the eyes of the fairy, it didn't really, it was still part of a learning and a healing process. Because the ogre became dependent on someone else seeing them as okay and not being able to let go of that. Where here, I feel like the ogre becomes successful. I'm really sorry, I keep saying ogre, but that's all it is. The ogre becomes successful. And the key, though, to this success is, yes, everyone in the town doesn't really know this ogre, or doesn't remember them. But if the ogre had walked into that town with this energy, it would have happened all over again, right? But it doesn't. And there's like I don't know, the Ace of Pentacles, the Emperor, and the Ten of Pentacles. It's like becoming the king of the town. It's like becoming mayor. So what will be ready to harvest? This is new beginning, like fresh. Like there's almost like the background story is gone. It's just pure. A brand new beginning. And I want to say too, though, what really holds this up is that everyone starts to realize, wow, the ogre is really wise. The ogre's been through a lot. The ogre, because I don't feel like that this is like denying the backstory. This is almost sharing it with others in the town, in the community that feel kind of ogreish, or I don't feel understood, or, and I'm starting to feel like I'm taking on what other people think I am, or who I should be, or how I should feel. But I really feel like the wise one is wise because they've taken all the things that they've been through and they've utilized them as lessons for not only themselves, but others. Yeah, like if the devil was on the underline, I would say there could be a possibility here where the ogre becomes mayor of the town, but is always somehow covertly manipulating because they don't want their old story to come out and people to start seeing them. Because the minute it's like, I have to hide part of myself, and people are like, why? Why do you have to hide that? And it's because, well, the injury hasn't been dealt with. But this is like, it's really been dealt with here in the future. The Fool. Wow, the King of Swords. Very clear, honest. Tons of Aquarian energy right here. All Aquarian energy. So it is totally like a day that there's never been before in the life of the ogre. Totally a new beginning. The Two of Swords and the Chariot. My goodness, but doesn't this underline energy, like, the ogre can't see this right now. You can't. You're beautiful, Leo. You're beautiful. The most beautiful ogre ever. Even to, you know what? Even like the what is that? The black? No, the what's the story of the swan? The Ugly Duckling, right? It's kind of like that energy too. But the storyline of the Ugly Duckling, I mean, it's a little bit similar in the ogre. So yeah, Ugly Duckling. But really, it's the most beautiful thing ever. My gosh, that was, I don't even know what to call that, but I know there's a different conversation happening between you and the divine into the future. I'm going to go to this extended, Leo, and in the extended, I'm going to look at the in-between energy from your current and your future. We're going to look at personal challenges, distractions to be aware of, an area of your life to kind of focus on. All right. Thank you so much, Leo. Until next time, do be gentle with yourselves. Bye.